Okay, this is Jimmy Jive, and you're listening to Motor City Rock Talk. Today, my guest is legendary guitar player, producer, and he played in several bands, most notably Teezer. He also has his own recording studio in Canton, Michigan called Talent Live. My guest today is Rick Young. How you doing, Rick?
Hey, how's it going, Jimmy?
It's going good.
Good.
I really appreciate you doing this again.
For sure, no problem, man. It's my pleasure.
I'm
my
sorry
pleasure.
about the technical difficulties, but we seem to have it fixed now.
Hey, it's all good. Always has.
All right.
I'm just glad to be doing this with you, man. It's good to see you again.
Yes. Okay, I'd like to start out, just have you give me a little family background and a little bit about how you came to play the guitar, any kind of instructions you had.
Well, I actually started off on clarinet, and I was playing jazz music. I was really into Benny Goodman and Pete Fountain. I really didn't care much about rock and roll back then. And then all of a sudden, my dad, who was a classical and jazz pianist, he toured the world with his own 17-piece orchestra.
That's Bruce he's talking about.
That was Bruce, yes. And he had a degree in music. And anyway, I would play the clarinet, and he'd tell me when I was off or this or that.
Sure.
You know, you should have played a 16th triplet there. That wasn't right. And so he was always correcting me. But anyway, so I really loved playing the clarinet. And then one day my dad came across a guy, and the guy needed some money and wanted to sell his guitar. And so my dad said, I'm not giving you this. He said, we'll go 50-50 on it. And, and I said, okay, and so I got the guitar. And I started playing that thing. I loved that thing. And I played till my fingers were bleeding.
What kind of guitar was that?
It was an old Hagstrom, just an old Hagstrom. And I remember when I picked it up, see, I'm ambidextrous, like my dad.
Wow,
I play, I do things with the left hand and with the right hand.
Really?
Yep.
Including guitar? You can play guitar both ways?
No, I started to. And this guy, he was a country guitar player. That was the guy that sold us the guitar. And so basically after he sold us the guitar, informed me how to hold the guitar, so I started holding it right-handed, and I became a right-handed guitar player. Well, anyway, I basically started listening to blues greats, like John Lee Hooker, Albert Collins, Albert King, B.B. King, all of them. And then I started mimicking their style. And then I started delving into Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, and I said, man, these are great players. So I started mimicking their styles, and then I created my own.
Right. Did you notice at that time, though, you must have, getting into it, how Hendrix and Clapton, had mimicked probably some of the same styles that you were originally?
I could assimilate, I could feel where they were coming from, but the part that I liked about Clap was he actually created his own style. He was great, and the part that I liked about him was the fact that he was a rock player and a blues player. So then I started hitting on listening to Jimi Hendrix, and man, I just went nuts when I heard him because he was making that thing talk. So I started learning everything that Hendrix played, and I would mimic him, from Wind Cries Mary to Little Wing, and then to, of course, Purple Haze and stuff.
Yeah.
But those were my influences, Jeff Beck, same way.
Right.
I loved it. His vibrato was great because he used that vibrato bar as another instrument. Instead of just using his fingers, he was using the vibrato bar. And I loved that about him.
And what was really interesting about Beck to me was thinking of the Yardbirds. Here you had Page and the Yardbirds, and you had Beck. Two totally different players. Totally different. Both great players,
Yep.
but different as far as that,
Yeah, you're 100% right, man.
Okay, we've talked a little about your influences, and I can pretty much guess the rest.
Sure.
As far as that. Tell me a little bit more about your parents, Bruce and Elsie.
Oh, Elsie actually studied ballet when she was very young in Chicago, and then she got into tap. And basically, Bruce, he had three degrees. He graduated college at the age of 16.
That's amazing.
He had an engineering scholarship, he had a music scholarship, and he also had an art scholarship. So he was just something else. He was a brainiac. I remember a lot of my friends were afraid to talk to him and didn't care to talk to him because they didn't understand him because he was using 6 and 8 syllable words and they didn't know what he was saying. And they'd always look at me and say, "Can you translate what your dad's trying to say?" I briefly summate what he was trying to, say.
Well, he pulled no punches with people. That was the thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And
he said it like it was.
Yes. And my daughter got me that sign right there for Father's. And it says Talent Live Studios. It's got our number, got our website on there. But it says Bruce's slogan was, he said, "Son, we're not here for us." He said, "Remember that." He said, we're here to help others. And he said, "We want to make their dreams happen." So that was his little thing. We make dreams happen. And my daughter got that for me for Father's Day.
Well, you certainly have over the years because you've been recording in the studio for what, 40 years or so?
35, 40 years. Yeah.
Let's get back a little bit to Teezer. Okay. How did Teezer come about?
I was playing in a club. I was playing in a bar to get through school. I was going to college, and I didn't want my mom and dad paying,
right,
college education. I also, I didn't want to get a grant or anything like that. I said, you know what? I'm going to try this out. I'm going to play in a band at night and then go to school during the day. So I was doing that, and then Ted Nugent's drummer came up to me, and he said, "Hey, what the heck are you doing in this bar band?"
Ted's drummer was?
And he was one of the Amboy Dukes. It was Keith Johnson.
Right.
So he was on Tooth, Fang, and Claw or something and Call the Wild.
Right.
And so anyway, he came up to me and he said, "Hey, would you like to be in a band?" "Sure." So I said, "My gosh, this is pretty cool." I was playing Robin Trower and all that stuff at the time. And so anyway, we got together and he said, "I know the singer." And he had hit out a song called House of the Rising Sun. It wasn't the Animals version, it was Frigid Pink's version.
Right.
And so anyway, he said, "I know him." He got him to come over. We jammed and we talked. So we started a group. And then we got a bass player, Laugh. It was crazy, but...
bass player?
That was Abe White.
White.
He was the bass player. Kelly Green, real name was Tom Boge, but he went by Kelly Green. He was the singer. Keith Johnstone, he was the drummer. And me, Rick, as the guitar.
Okay, and where were some of the clubs that you're playing in those days? 'Cause I know there were a ton of them back then. Where were some of the places?
Harpo's, the Nectarine Ballroom in Ann Arbor. We were playing the Rit on the east side. Center Stage, of course.
Right.
And what happened was a lot of the club owners, they really didn't like the bands. What they would do is they would try to use and exploit. And my mom and dad wanted to try to help put a stop to that. So they did with us. So we broke away from exclusively signing with one agent. And when we would go into the club, we would pack. So they wanted us. But my mom would make sure everything was above board and they weren't exploiting us in a negative way.
Right.
So anyway, and my mom was 4'10". So
I remember.
But
sweet lady.
she was just a sweet person, And my dad, he was the one that carried the cane,
the stick.
So, you didn't want to mess with Bruce.
That's right.
Yes. So we did a radio show one time. The guy, I'm not going to mention, the guy that was asking the questions, he said, "So Bruce, how did you get into it?" And right on air, in front of all of our fans, thousands of people were out there listening to this.
Yes.
And he said, "Well, I'm a retired hip." And he says, "When my eyes started to fail on me, I started hitting innocent people. I knew I had to get out of that business. So I decided I was going to be the manager of Teezer." Jeez. And we're sitting there going, he's saying this to all these people.
What station was this on? Do you remember?
It was WRAF.
Oh, okay.
And anyway, after that, they said they never received that many calls after an interview. People were laughing. They were going crazy.
Yeah.
And we thought he ruined us. So we were mad at him.
He set the tone for the future.
He did. And we were sitting there going, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. Kelly laughed, and Keith and I didn't. We were just like, oh my gosh.
Uh-oh.
And Abe said, well, I don't know what to say.
At that time, was the album out yet?
No, we had just, we were releasing it. Now, do you remember a place called Uncle Sam's?
Yes.
That place, we were packing them. And the owner became very good friends with Bruce Elsey and the group Teezer.
Right.
And we used to have after hours parties, after 2 o'clock in the morning. By the way, that was at a time when the drinking age came.
Oh, I know.
Oh my gosh, we used to pack that place. So anyway, that place, center stage, they were jam-packed when we'd play there. But they had after-hour parties there, and they brought in a swimming pool.
Where do they bring it swimming pool?
They
At
had
Uncle
a
Sam's?
beach party at Uncle Sam's
Oh, wow.
with sand and everything. People dressed up in their bathing suits
Right.
and went to the... I couldn't believe it, you know. So, but that was a part of Bruce's promoting, you know. He promoted all kinds of stuff. He came up these different ideas with Bob Gaynor and the Studio Lounge for the Whiplash Bash and all that stuff. And he said, Keith, get a hold of Ted, create this thing, and then the winning group can play, you know, as the opener for Ted.
Right.
And Ted went for it and
Oh, yeah.
all shot. So
Those
yeah.
were very successful shows.
Yes, yeah. And the winners of those shows got to open for Ted. And so it was a big deal, you know?
Yeah,
So-
yeah, it was. So as far as Teezer, when exactly did you record the album? And I'm assuming you recorded here at Talent Live.
No, we did not record it.
You did not record
no,
it
this
here?
studio, Talent Live Studios, was not even on the map.
Oh.
It wasn't even a thought.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were a rock
Oh,
just playing
okay.
out. And so what basically happened was we decided to record that album. We recorded the album. And then in due process, what was happening was I loved that because I was producing it. But I studied also engineering. And what happened was I went to Bruce owned property. He said, this place would be perfect. We're right here, Michigan Avenue, between Sheldon and Canton Center Road. And I said, so we're 10 minutes from the airport. We start a studio here. We're between Ann Arbor and Detroit. We're going to have people coming back and forth in
Yeah,
here.
you're really in the center of it.
So we decided to build the studio, and man, it took us 2 years to put the building together. Then we had to do the insulating, all the wiring. I can't even tell you, Jimmy,
Oh,
how
I can imagine.
the wiring is just intense. You know, I'll run you through sometime and let you just see what's going on. But
Right.
and we used all Mogami cable, which was pure copper, was tinned wire. It's not the stuff you buy at the music store.
Right.
We had to special order all that. And Bruce wanted nothing but pure copper. Bruce was an electrical engineer, too.
Right. Well, yeah, if you're going to do something like this, take on this kind of endeavor, you may as well do it full force.
Yep,
You
and
don't
that
have to
was
go back
Bruce
in
and
and, you know,
myself.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, do
Yep.
it right the first.
And it was after I had started the studio, I decided to actually go back to school and take audio engineering. So I went to the Audio Institute out in California, and I graduated top of my class because I was into it. And
Big
it
time.
wasn't mommy and daddy's money paying for
Right,
it.
right.
It was coming out of my pocket. I was
Yeah.
going to make sure I was going to do something with it. So I did that, and Bruce saw the intent, and he said, let me help you. He said, I've got the property. Let's put the building together. And we started doing all the electrical work and everything, and soundproofing and
So you guys, you and your dad actually hands-on?
hands-on,
Wow.
right from start to finish, from the roof. And there's two roofs above here. That's why you don't hear planes and
Yeah,
stuff going
yeah.
over. We insulated the whole shop. We spent a ton of money, but yeah, now we've got well over $2 million into the building.
Oh, yeah.
So-
yeah. Not to mention improvements you've made over the years as far as
Yeah,
equipment.
the equipment.
all
Always
that
trying
stuff.
to stay above
Yes,
and ahead.
yes.
You know.
So where did you record the Teezer album then?
We recorded that in a small little studio in Detroit. It was in Redford, called Multitrack at that time. And
Was that about 5 Mile?
Yeah, it was on 5 Mile.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
And right next door to it, you know, was Bill Cairo's.
Bill Carl's drum shop.
Yep,
yes.
drum shop. Yep. And then Bill used to come over and say hi to us, so we used to hang with Bill. Even though we were rock and rollers, Bill
Right.
was into jazz. We
Sure.
still became friends, you
Yeah.
know. And it was a deep respect there with, you know, the different styles of music. you
Yeah,
know.
sure.
But yeah,
Which, I mean, your album across the board is very diverse.
Oh,
Starts
thanks.
out like it's like, you know, 80s, I wouldn't say metal, but rock.
right.
Then you go into a ballad type
Right.
song, which is beautiful song. And I went to ask you, you said you didn't play piano. Who was playing piano on it?
On that one, that was a friend of mine. I just happened to ask him. He was a Christian artist, and I said, "Hey, would you play piano on this song?"
That was amazing. It's
Oh,
a
thanks.
beautiful number.
Was that Isn't It Hard to Say Goodbye?
Yes,
Yeah, that was
yes.
the one I sang.
Yeah, I knew that was one you sang. And so I'm like, all right, this didn't sound like Rick, but this definitely sounds like you.
Yeah.
The other thing about the album I noticed is I know it was the 80s and all that,
Right.
but you had some really cool type rhythms going on there. One of them sounded like almost like, I want to say, funky Latin beat.
Yes.
And I know you guys you had mentioned doing the covers and being out, you needed the people to dance, women to dance.
We wanted to get everybody.
You were, like I said, that album was very diverse.
Yes.
All the way across. And I don't think a lot of groups were doing that. They said this is our style and this is what we can play all the way through.
Well,
Yet you were diverse.
Thank you for that. That particular song that you were talking about, Isn't Hard to Say Goodbye?
Yes.
That was recorded in here probably about 5-6 years ago. So I just happened to do that. I wanted to redo that with piano in it.
Yeah.
I wanted to add, we never put lead guitar in that. And that was Keith's idea. And he said, why don't you put a guitar solo on the song? Teezer, we never did that. So the after Teezer, the newer Teezer, we actually went back into the studio, which is here, Talent Life Studios, and we took it, and then I started playing lead guitar on that and created a different kind of a rhythm for it, and Keith played on it. That was one of Keith's favorite songs.
Are you saying, when you say that guys didn't play solos, are you saying when you played live back in the day, doing even covers, you weren't playing leads?
No, that was me playing leads on everything.
Right.
I'm talking about, I didn't play a lead guitar solo in the song Isn't Hard to Say Goodbye.
In that particular song.
On that particular song. There was no lead guitar in that. It was just a melody structure.
Right, yeah. It was beautiful that way, but it was even better because I could imagine without the lead it would have sounded incredible, but yeah, it sounds great.
Well, thanks.
With that,
But that was Keith's idea. I give him all the credit for that because he kept saying to me, why don't we put a lead guitar solo on this? And I said,
drummer with an idea?
Yeah, right. That's funny you said that because I had a band come in here. It was a 5-piece rock band. And I said, oh, okay, so there's 5 of you in the band? And the guitar player looked at me and he said, no, there's just 4 of us and our drummer.
Right.
And I said, that's not cool. And then I admonished him and I said, you know what? Guess who the most important person is here today?
The drummer.
The drummer.
I
said, there's your meter. That's the guy laying down the foundation.
Yeah.
So give him props and pay respect.
Drummer, bass, and then on up because you got to have that rhythm section. I'm a bass player and I know that.
Yes, I know you. I know you are. Yes. So, yeah, that was it. Go ahead.
So you recorded it at Multitrack. Where did you have it mastered?
I actually took it down to get it mastered, and it was just outside of Nashville. I forgot the name of the place.
Right.
It's on the album.
Right. Yeah, I would know that. I just for this interview, I thought it'd be interesting because a lot of bands would send themselves a lot of the stuff to New York City.
Yes. No, we actually went down there. There was 3 of us that went down there, and then I was there. We got it mastered and the whole shot. But
were you hands-on involved in the mastering?
Oh yeah, I did the mastering.
Oh, wow.
Because they told me, they said, well, you're experienced, you know what you're doing, go ahead. So
less money that way too. Yeah, it sounded really good.
Well, thanks.
You had mentioned earlier about being interviewed on WRF. Did they play any of the album at any time?
Oh yeah, they were playing it constantly
during regular hours or at night.
We were taken off. We actually had record company off, and we went with one of them, and it was a subsidiary of that.
Sure.
So, but the thing is, that's when the group was breaking up. Like all groups, you have dissension, and for what reasons, who knows? But mainly, it's either money, greed, ego. Something's gonna come in and ruin it. And look on the wall here. Yeah. Almost every group I've ever had in here, somehow, shape, or form, breaks up eventually. And to be honest with you, we try to be the goodwill ambassador and a liaison between the groups. I had it happen with the group. I'm not going to mention the name.
Right, no.
But fine. They hit, and they went number 16 on the chart. Produced that song in here, and they were in all the Harmony House stores, selling like crazy, and that's when they broke up.
Oh.
And we tried to have a meeting in here to squelch that,
right.
To no avail.
But don't you think, to some degree, be in the business and be successful, you have to have some kind of ego. You have to have a lot of confidence in yourself because you have to project that. I mean, I understand the kind of ego you're talking about, but
right.
You've got to be confident.
Every human being has what's called an ID, and the psychology of it. And we all have that. And that is basically what forms the ego. Some of them get out of hand.
Right.
And when Teezer started making money, unfortunately, that's when I saw 4C. Okay, this is getting out of hand. That's when I delved into this heavily. I went back to school, went to the Audio Institute, graduated. After I finished, I said, you know what? I'm going to create a studio that all genres of music can record in, not just rock or rap or
Right.
hip hop or top 40 or gospel or heavy metal.
That's good business sense.
Everybody can, you know?
Yeah.
And what studio has a stage room with 120 lights and a giant room for the drums?
Not that I've ever seen.
I know.
It's incredible. It really is, folks.
And to be honest with you, I studied, like my dad did, the dimensions of how Led Zeppelin was getting that John Bonham sound.
Right.
And I found out that basically they laid out plywood, pieces of plywood, 4x8 sheets, took him into a small hall, recorded the drums. Then Jimmy Page took those tracks. They laid down a guide track.
Right.
Then they took the tracks back to the studio, and Jimmy Page started laying down all the other instruments and the vocals all around that. That's how they got it. Well, look what we've got here.
Yep, he's got
The
that
wood
layout
stage,
here.
the complete stage for the drums. Look at, nobody's got a drum riser in the recording
not at
studio.
all. No, John Bonham would have proud to be here.
Oh.
Especially on this kit that you've got up there. I'm not familiar with that kind of kit. What is that?
They're called North Drums, and they were made back in 1981. And one of my clients, he said, I've got this drum kit in my basement. And he said, would you be interested in them? He said, I'll make you a trade, because he became a manager of a rap group.
Okay.
And I record the rap group.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, I'll go over there and check them out. Anyway, I know I'm getting off, but
No, that's
I
fine.
checked out those drums, and I said, oh my gosh. I said, these are North drums. I said, these are worth a small fortune. I said, you can't get these drums. Cleaned those babies up. I put a Gibraltar stand on them, and look at, here they are.
They are incredible. They are incredible. I'll have photos of that to go on with this. And I could just imagine the kind of sound those create, because the acoustics in this room, I've heard recordings you've done, videos off this stage, are absolutely incredible.
Thanks.
I mean, you guys did a great job as far as soundproofing and setting this up. You knew what you were doing, and the lights are just a bonus. My God, it's like playing at Cobo Hall, or whatever. It's crazy.
When you're recording, don't you want to play in a studio and feel like you're on a stage?
Yeah, I do.
Here it is.
But a lot of bands, they don't do that.
No.
The one band I was in, we recorded at a place called Middle Earth, and the band was in a room, but everything was like,
who used to
isolated
work for
up.
me.
Yeah. And it wasn't as intimate. We had that, and we could see each other, but we weren't on a stage. We're standing on the ground in different, and it wasn't. And I know a lot of bands have done it that way.
Yes.
If I ever wanted to record, this would be the way that I'd want to do it, because you get that energy of actually feeling like
Yes,
you're on
sir.
a stage,
Yes.
because that's a big part of it, I think.
That's why we put the drummer on a
Yes.
drum stage, and that way the group is looking at him,
Yeah.
and they feel like they're on a stage.
Yes, you get that whole power out of that. Okay, there are a lot of legendary stories about your father and some of the people he had run-ins with. And you were telling me one about a friend of mine, and obviously one of your close friends, Mickey Strange. What happened there?
His Mickey Strange, but his real name is Mark. And it was so funny because Mark really got to the point where he knew Bruce was super intelligent. I mean, he was, like I said, genius IQ, graduated
Everybody
at
that
16
met him
years.
knew that. They were just intimidated by that.
But Mark actually appreciated Bruce's knowledge so much, and so did a lot of the groups in here, like Lockdown and all these the rap groups and stuff. They used to stop over here just to pick his brain.
Yeah.
And I asked Lockdown one time, I said, why are you here? And they said, talk Pop, called Bruce Pop. And I said, why are you talking to him? And the warden, he was the leader of the group.
Yeah.
He looked at me and he said one word, and I almost started crying. He said, now, wow, this makes so much sense. I said, so you now have peeped it out. You've gone into his brain and saw, wow, there's some energy there that you've never seen before on the outside.
And he was smart enough to respect that.
Just
knowledge.
super
That's-
smart. Yeah.
that's
So
awesome.
the warden said, we're here to gain that now. And they did. And like I said, with all these groups, the unfortunate thing, like with Mickey Strange, Bruce told him what to do from start to finish. And he got out there. He went number 16 on the charts. He was on Harmony House. They had him on the walls, posters,
Yep.
everything.
Yep.
He was selling out. he played the Fillmore. There was over 3,000 people
That
there.
was with the Kings of Pain, though, right?
Yeah, Mickey Strange and the Kings of
Yeah.
Pain. And you know who the King of Pain is? So no other man has endured that amount of pain as the King of Pain, which is Jesus, and I don't want to get religious here,
Right.
but that's what he based his group off of.
Right.
So anyway, I said, Mickey, I said, this is fantastic. But he used to come over here and pick Bruce's brain. What direction should we go? Which direction should we go? And it was pretty cool because the two of them almost had a love-hate relationship because they would bump heads and argue about certain things. But Bruce would say, listen, if you're coming over here and you're asking me for my opinions and my conjecture, and then you're arguing with me, get the hell off my property.
Don't waste my time, kid.
And don't waste my time. And one day I came over here and I saw Mark leaving very fast. And I heard Bruce yelling, get the hell out of here. And Mark said, you better tame him down, man. He says, he's out of control. I said, you know what, Mark? I said, I'm glad that happened. Think about it. That's what I live with every day of my life. I said, how's it feel?
Yeah, you live with the ward.
That's right. That's right. Oh my gosh. That's why it didn't matter what genre of music, they all would come over. They would love talking to him,
Yeah, in other words, he put down the hammer as far as no egos.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. And he had a great respect for George Clinton. Took a lot of ideas from George Clinton. Crazy,
Right.
And as a matter of fact, Kid Rock had been in here before.
Right.
Bruce was telling him, son, when you get out there, you got to create illusions and you got to do this and do this and do that. He said, you got to have like little people running around on stage with the band and then you got to have a trapeze artist up there and do all kinds
like
of weird
a circus.
stuff. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, next time I saw Kid Rock, he was doing some of this weird stuff, where he'd bring these illusions to the stage.
And Joe C.
Yeah, and that was by coincidence that happened for him,
Wow.
And look, he fell in love with him,
Yes.
That's crazy.
And it worked, obviously, quite well financially for him.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Now, Rick, I know you're also famous for stories that happened to the band Teezer on the road. Can you recount one that happened to you? I believe you were in Cleveland, the Aurora.
Well, we actually played with Steppenwolf on one occasion, and then we played with another group called Humble Pie.
Right.
Well, it turns out that, do you know who Goldie McJohn is?
No.
He was the keyboard player for Steppenwolf.
Okay.
He had left Steppenwolf and then joined Humble Pie. So he was on stage with Humble Pie, and they were playing the Cleveland Agora. We played the Agora so many times, the owner of the Agora Ballroom asked us to open for Humble Pie. That was an honor for us.
Oh, it'd be an honor for anybody.
So, because we grew up loving Steve Marriott.
Of course.
And one of my favorite all-time rock and roll singers.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we went along so well. I started playing, and we did a song called "Gimme Shelter" by the Rolling Stones.
Right. Yeah.
We did our own version of it, and in the end, I do a guitar solo, and then I burned the guitar.
You actually burned it?
I actually burned it. Yeah, I burned the back of the guitar. I never hurt the guitar, but it was a little magic trick
Right,
that Bruce and I created.
Yeah.
And I'm up there burning it underneath strobe lights.
Yeah.
And then I jump up in the air and come down. And when I came down off the drum riser, a bomb went off. And by the time your eyes could focus, all you could see was a spotlight on my guitar, and it was smoldering on stage, and I'm gone.
My God.
So these people were freaking out at the Agora Ballroom. And guess who comes on next? Humble Pie.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we got an encore. So we did this encore. And after the encore, Steve Marriott said, I want to meet those guys. So he came over to our dressing room and talked to us. And he says, I was, I can't say it the way he did it because he had that Cockney rebel, accent. But he said, man, I really enjoyed your show. And then he said, I like your originals, because we announced every original we would do.
Yeah.
And he says, I really like the originals. He said, listen, why don't you come to my party? He says, right after we're done here, we're having a party back at our hotel. So we went to the hotel, and I'm thinking to myself, my God, I'm sitting on the edge of this bed with my group, and Steve Marriott's sitting right in front of us, and he's going, yeah, let me tell you something, guys. You guys blew me away. And he says, and guitars on fire and bombs going off. He says, man, this is what a show you guys put on tonight. So I said, oh my God,
That's high praise.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh my God.
It just blew my mind that we impressed him.
Yes.
And here's an all-time great.
Yes.
So anyway, he said, where are you from? I said, well, we're heading back home tonight. And I said, we'll probably be back there tomorrow. I said, but we live in, the Detroit area. And he said, oh, okay, wait a minute. My old drummer from the Small Faces plays with the Who, and he's at the Pontiac Silverdome tomorrow night. And I said, you got to be kidding me. Kenny Jones? And he said, yeah, he's with the Who. They're there. And I said, that's right. We heard about that.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, you guys want to go there? And I said, yeah, but we don't have tickets or anything. He says, oh, don't worry about that. And he starts writing this stuff down on this sheet of paper. And then he says, here, you take this to the security people at the Silverdome. He said, they'll give this to Kenny. He said, Kenny will take care of it. And I forgot what he put on there. He said something about blah, 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 and then his signature, And I thought, we were on the way back. It was a long drive. We've had, we've been up almost 48 hours. And I was talking to the rest of the guys in Teezer, and I said, we might go there to the Silverdome and show them this piece of paper. They might just say, hey, man, get out of here.
What do you think this is?
Exactly. So I said, do we chance it? And they said, we're too tired, man. We don't want that disappointment.
Sure.
Get all the way there. So they said, you know what? We've got 4 guys in our road crew. And I said, well, do you want to just give it to them? And then they said, instead of throwing it away.
Sure.
He said, yeah, give it to the guys in the road crew. We gave it to the guys in the road crew. They went there. The next day, they contacted us. Again, it's not like having phones,
right?
Where you can take pictures and all that stuff. So you have to have those developed.
Yeah.
So anyway, they took cameras with them. They gave that paper to Kenny Jones. Kenny Jones took them into their private dressing room. They met Roger Daltrey, Pete Townsend, John Entwistle, and they treated them like royalty. And they thought they were Teezer.
Yeah, they impersonated you.
So they impersonated us, and they said, whoa, it's great to meet you, man, blah, blah, blah. And they said, here, listen, we're going to give you backstage passes, and then we're going to give you special seats to sit out in the front to watch the show. And anytime you want to go to the bathroom or you want to have food, they delied in all that food for them, and there it was. They were all set.
Oh, man.
So they came back the next day, told us the whole story, and I said, you met the Who, and you hung with the Who, got to watch them in front. And I said, and then you've got these pictures. They had them developed the next day.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh, there they all are.
And you're thinking like, oh, man, what a chance.
This is nuts. But I said, you know what? We did some good in this world.
Yes. Those guys must have loved forever. Because that's a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Oh, yeah. They were freaking out. By the way, speaking of good in the world, Bruce was a disabled veteran from World War II. He was blown up on a ship, lived 2 years in a naval hospital in a cast from his neck down to his feet. Got out, and he joined the Marines for another 4 years. So he was a lifer.
Yeah.
When the Flight 255 plane crash happened here in Michigan,
yeah.
and everyone was killed in that plane crash except for one little 3-year-old baby. And she was thrown maybe out the window almost a mile away from where the wreckage was. Bruce broke down because that brought back memories of the war when he lost his brother.
Sure.
And so anyway, we decided to write a song. So we wrote a song called Cecilia. That was the little girl's name. Bruce and I gave it to the grandparents, and all the proceeds were given to the grandparents to raise funds for the little girl.
That's incredible.
So we've always done things like that. And then when
great.
the 9/11 happened, I wrote a song. Bruce had died a month before that happened, and I had Merrill Osmond, D. Osmond, in here.
Right.
Merrill Osmond and I decided to shift gears. We were working on his original at that time that he and I were writing, and we said, let's write a song for the victim's family. This is 22 years ago.
Right.
So we wrote this song called America. It's on our website, talentlive.com. You can see it over on the left, and you'll see him. And then we had 525 kids in the video sing along with him. And I had to do all this syncing together. It was a lot of technical stuff to put on there.
Yeah.
But when I finished the song, Merrill had to leave because his father was dying, and his dad died the day after he had finished singing the song. He flew back to Utah. So anyway, I finished doing the whole song, got it ready, and I gave Merrill a copy of it. And he said, I'm going to get this to the Families for Freedom organization. That was an organization to raise funds for the victims' families.
Right.
They decided to use our song over everyone. They used our song as a vehicle people to raise the fund. And now we've raised, in 22 years, we've raised over $100 million as a scholarship fund for the victims.
That's incredible. That's just incredible. And you give up all your time, your energy, and all that. You didn't take a penny out of it, I know, because you're just that kind of guy to do that. That's incredible. And I know Bruce, your father, would have been extremely proud of you for doing that.
Thanks for
I
that.
just don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah.
Let's get into one other little thing here. The studio you've got now is massively impressive, and I know you do a lot of rap, hip-hop artists.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody and everybody is pretty much. Name some of the people that have been in here. You mentioned the Osmonds. Who else has been in your studio, whether they recorded or just as?
Well, you can see on the wall. I
Yeah.
mean, if you just look, you'll see pictures of the Allman Brothers to Stevie Wonder to all these people, Belinda Carlisle. I mean, it just goes on and on, the whole list. When you look at this, you're looking at, Jay-Z's crew, Rockefeller Productions. I've had all these people in here. And to be honest with you, I was chastised by the rock and roll community because a long time ago, I started making rap beats. And it was because I said, geez, I'm not tying myself to one genre of music.
Right.
And I liked making beats. So I started making beats, and rappers started coming to me left and right. Rap developed into a thing called hip-hop. Do you know what the difference is? Rap and hip-hop? It became more of a culture thing.
Okay, all right.
And what happened was, before it was hardcore rap. And I
Right.
was so used to doing that. Then all of a sudden, instead of demeaning women, saying the same stuff over and over,
Right.
all of a sudden it became more of a political and a social issue. And so all of a sudden it became musical. And then all of a sudden rappers started becoming hip-hop art. I watched that whole thing develop. I watched it.
Well, you were a big part of it, obviously.
Yeah, I loved, and I love making beats. But like I said, I was working with MC Breed. He's from Flint, and that was Flint Town Productions, and nobody knows it, but we were Flint Town Productions. We did so much in here. And then I've worked with the guys from the Dayton Family, and that was, at one point, that was Eminem's favorite group.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, Dayton Family. And do you know the reason that MC Breed was so revered in the rap community?
No.
Because, see, and the rappers don't even know this, most of them. He was the first one to go gold for hip-hop. And when he went gold, that was a representation. That wasn't a money thing. That was to say, he's got street cred.
Right.
So when you make yourself known and you've got street credits, that gives you a name out there.
Sure.
See? And that's the thing. I've recorded a lot of guys from Death Row Records and blah, blah, blah. Now Snoop owned Death Row Records.
Right.
Snoop was on one of the tracks I did for Ricochet. And Ricochet got picked up by Jay-Z, and that was Rockefeller Production. And that thing took off. And I believe it went flat. So it was just amazing, transitioning,
The whole music industry changed over, yeah.
But like I said, a lot of the rock and the country people, they would talk in a negative direction about hip-hop, let me tell you.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I'd have to let it go in. Yep, I let it go in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
Because I don't talk junk.
Right.
And when a group breaks up, whether it's hip-hop or rock or gospel or whatever, they all talk about each other after they break up.
Yeah.
And who do they use as the sounding board?
Yeah.
Me. And I tell them right off the bat, I'm friends with that person too.
Yes.
And I'm friends with you, and I'm not going to talk negative or junk, behind their back.
Well, you're not that kind of a person, and on top of that, not good business.
No. And my mom and dad had taught me a long time ago, you never talk negative about anybody or whatever. You try to build them up. And then my dad, his strange relationship with Mickey Strange was he would hit him with the negatives, and after he'd tear him down, he'd pat him on the back. And then if his head got too big,
he pound him down again.
Yeah. But I walked into his dressing room. He had played the Fillmore. The place was jam-packed. They did a couple encores. I walked in there, and I looked at them, and they were drenched in sweat. And I said, incredible evening, guys. And I said, but I'm going to tell you guys something right now. Don't even think about getting a big head with me. And Mickey looked up at me, and he said, after being around Bruce, do you think I could even think about getting a big head?
Better not.
That's right. He always grounded us,
Yes,
everybody.
That's very important. And it's a good sounding board for success, especially in the music business. You got to be rounded off. Tell me a little about Elsie, as far as I know she managed you guys. She did all the booking. She
Yep.
did all the work on your costumes and all that.
Yeah, Bruce was the manager, really.
Right.
But Elsie was the booking agent. And we saw all these other groups out there getting taken by agents. And all of a sudden, they're getting shafted by a lot of club owners and things like that. It was a dog eat dog.
Oh, sure.
And it was all about greed,
Yeah.
of course. So Elsie was to protect them. And nobody knew. She was just a little 4'10" lady.
Yeah.
And she would say, listen, let's be fair here. And when she'd start talking, she had that motherly instinct.
Yeah.
And you couldn't fight that. You could not fight that. Come on, are you going to fight a 4'10" woman?
No.
So all of a sudden they'd say, okay, I'm doing this for you, Elsie, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So all of a sudden, all these other groups started coming to us left and right. And they said, hey, would your mom book us too?
Yeah.
And then she started booking them. And she was booking them. Then the Strawberry Festival. They'd come to us every year. The Ribbon Soul Festival downtown Detroit.
Yeah.
Nothing but national acts and stuff going in there. Who do you think was booking them? It was Elsie.
Oh, man.
So she was doing this down at Hart Plaza.
Yeah.
So everybody was coming to her. And guess how much she charged these groups?
I don't even want to imagine, because I imagine it was
Zero.
Nothing.
You got it.
Because she had a heart of gold, and
Yep.
she just loved helping people,
Yep.
like your whole family.
That was it. And if they felt like giving something, then she would say, well, I'll put it away in a, like an envelope for you to put it
Right.
on, like an escrow account.
Sure.
But she'd say, no, you don't have to pay me. I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing it to try to help people and get them exposure.
Make their dreams come
Make
true.
their dreams happen. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, the last thing I'm going to ask you about, your extremely talented daughter.
Oh,
Tell me a little bit about her.
well, thank you for that. But she too has a heart of gold. She is out there trying to help others. She started dancing, doing tap dance and ballet at the age of 3. She's with Cicchetti, and now she just turned 27, so she's actually going for her 7th certification, which is the highest you can go in ballet. But Kelsey loves to sing, loves to dance, and then all of a sudden, she was about 14 years old or something. We took her to a karaoke place. The DJ happened to know me because I record him in here,
Right.
and he's in a heavy metal band.
Sure.
And he came up and he said, wow, man, your daughter's freaking me out, because she was singing songs like At Last,
Right.
by Etta James.
Yes.
And he goes, what the heck?
Massive
So
standards.
anyway, she started singing. Well, he said, who do you like singing, Kelsey? And she likes older style music.
Right.
And so here she is at 14, 15, and she's singing Connie Francis. She's singing, it was Brenda Lee, Connie Francis, and Patsy Cline. Those were her favorites.
2 major icons. Or
Yeah.
3 major icons.
Especially Brenda Lee. Just
Wow.
loves Brenda Lee. So she was at the age of 15, and this promoter came up and the karaoke place. And he actually did some impersonations himself, and he was really good at it. He came up and he said, hey, how old is she? And I said, she's 15. And he said, you got to kidding me. He said, what got her into that? Because young people at that
Right.
time were listening to Eminem and
Yeah,
Rihanna,
sure,
and not,
Beyonce,
Patsy
yeah.
Cline and stuff. So
Yeah.
anyway, he said, hey, if she can learn X amount of Brenda Lee songs, I'm doing a show, I'm going to book her as a Brenda Lee impersonator.
Right.
And so all of a sudden she got into it, and then she started doing all these other shows. They started booking her everywhere. So Luciano just passed away not long ago, but he owns the biggest Italian restaurant over there on the east side.
Yeah.
She was there, and then he booked her in there. He had her there every week.
Wow.
Yeah, and so here she is. She's a kid, and
Yeah.
she's doing all these shows. So it's funny. She did have, but she, like I said, her accolades are just unreal with her dancing. She, at the age of 5, she won the national championship for tap dancing, or for dancing, and it was their tapping that got her out there. So all of a sudden, people started coming and asking later on if she did choreography. So she started choreographing all these groups. Well, Disney had her in, and she went to Disney and choreographed 3 different shows.
Wow.
And she was doing all these things for
That's
like
incredible.
major entertainment band.
Yeah.
So she basically now also goes out as a, she'll be a judge, and they'll hire her, and they'll have maybe 3,500, 4,000 people, and she'll be one of the 3 judges, and because she's well versed in different styles of dance, she's able to do that. And I told her when she was 3, I said, your grandma used to tap dance and do ballet, and that's what got into it.
Right,
and she was there to impress Elsa.
Right.
So, and when she was about 4 or 5, I said, Mom, is there anything else you can show her? And she said, no, she's beyond me now. Yeah, but she loves the competition, and that's what she does now all the time. She goes from place to place to place, and she just word that one of her students, he just won a national tap dancing championship. He won that, and you know what's different about him?
What?
He can't hear. He's totally deaf.
Wow.
And he was born without ears, so he
Right.
wears prosthetics.
Yeah.
But people think by his dance, you would assume
Yeah.
that he could hear everything he was doing. He can't hear a thing.
You must feel it.
He feels, yep.
Wow.
And Kelsey works with him. He's
That-
out of state.
That is great. That's incredible.
Amazing.
More of the family giving back.
Yeah.
Because and you should be. Well, I know you are extremely proud of that with her. That she's carried on your family tradition. Because
Yeah.
right from Bruce and Elsie on down to you and now her. That's great, Rick.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm going to
Thanks,
end
Jim.
this interview with you and say thank you so much for doing it, taking the time. I know you're a busy man. I want to say once again, if you need a studio and you're into any type of music, come see Rick at Talent Live. The phone number is 734-397-3444. You won't be disappointed. And as I always say, keep rocking.
Very superstitious, writings on the wall. Very superstitious, ladders back and forth. 13 months old baby, broke the looking glass. 7 years of bad luck. The good things in your past. When you believe in things that you don't understand, then you suffer. Superstition ain't the way. Hey, yeah. Very superstitious. Wash your face and hands. Rid me of the problem. Do all that you can. Keep me in a daydream. Keep me going strong. You don't wanna save me. Satisfy your soul. believe in things that you don't understand, and you suffer.
Watch for Teezer's second album on Speaker Records.
Thank you, Teezer. Oh, here's some good summer music for you. just a shadow.